So the only problem I have with this movie idea is that you have Shaggy lighting the black flame
Oh,
candle.
okay. Yeah,
And the only
yes.
problem with that is that Shaggy fucks. So
Yeah.
there's no way he's a virgin. Welcome to Please Make This Movie, a show where we take a beloved movie or TV series and create the perfect sequel, prequel, or spinoff. I'm Zach.
I'm Storm.
And I'm Nick.
Today we're talking Hocus Pocus. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at PMTMPod. There you can find any polls, artwork that we may come up with, and make suggestions for future episodes. So before we get in too deep, let's talk about Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus.
We've kind of just started talking about it. This is a movie for me that I think I was of the age where I saw it when I was a kid, and I am like the age that this movie stuck with me, because I was telling you guys last week when we picked this that for my 21st birthday, the night of my birthday, I actually ended up watching this movie instead of like celebrating my birthday.
Still pretty
which is
sad to hear.
Awesome and depressing. But then like with my kids, they're super interested in it now. And so I find myself watching it again and again, like on repeat.
With those repeat viewings and kind of having that perspective of having watched it a lot when you were younger, do you think that does it hold up? Is it a good movie?
So I walked away from it when I sat down by myself, watched the entire thing. I walked away from it actually thinking like, you know what? This movie is better than I thought it was.
Right on.
And like, I don't know that I feel good about that. But that was my feeling walking away of, I thought I was going to be shitting all over this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think like I can, but I don't think that like it's necessarily going to be super easy to do.
Yeah.
It's a weird movie because it's intentionally silly. Like if you Wikipedia, it is a comedy partly and like a dark fantasy. That might have been what it was described done on IMDb, but it's a mixture. I don't know, when I was watching it, I laughed at like some of the jokes that I was supposed to laugh at, but I also laughed really hard at some dumb stuff in there that I don't think I was supposed to laugh at, and some stuff that was just like didn't make any sense. Like for example, like for whatever reason, they just kept bringing up the fact of like a virgin blowing out the candle.
Yeah.
And like I had no idea if that was supposed to be a joke or not, because like it's not like the kid was being made fun of for being a virgin ever. They just kept mentioning it.
And it was very unclear how old Max was. Like he was in high school. He drove a car at one point, but it seemed like maybe he wasn't old enough to drive a car. So I don't know his age. And they kept saying like he's a virgin as if like he should be so embarrassed. And it's like, this is a Disney movie for, I thought, children.
You think it's like maybe they were whoever was behind the movie trying to sneak in as much, I guess, like slightly more mature humor than would normally be acceptable in a Disney movie like that, and so that's the joke they're riding with, because I guess it is sexual in nature. I feel like as a kid, I would have been like, what are they talking about? Why is he so special when he lights the candle?
Yeah, well, I don't recall that at all when I was a kid, and this came out the year I was born, so I watched it on like Disney reruns. But I mean, you know, there's not only that, there's Bobo. I call him Bobo, the bus driver, who's just like, hey, Bobo, I'm in trouble now. Those witches, I want to have sex wishes. Like,
he literally talks about getting them pregnant. Like he makes a joke about, I can't remember the exact language of it, but he's like, it might take a couple tries, but I can get you there. And it's like, wow, you guys really went for it there.
I mean, I think that there's genuinely like a lot of sexuality and witchy stuff in general. So I think it's trying to find like the balance between presenting witchy business the way a lot of people are expecting it, and then also appealing to like a broad family audience. But it does strike a weird kind of middle ground. I
Yeah,
definitely
like
agree with that. Definitely with that bus driver for sure.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking like who is this movie for? Because it's not
Yeah.
for kids. Like it's not for adults, I don't think. And it's not really for kids because like so the devil, the guy in the devil costume,
Mm.
um is
Oh yeah.
Gary Marshall. Like I don't know how deep cut you guys know. He directed Pretty Woman and he's like a pretty well-known comedy director, I believe. And then his wife who's got her hair up in rollers is Penny Marshall, who's I believe she was Laverne in Laverne and Shirley.
She looked
Okay.
familiar.
So like she's a super recognizable actress, but from like the 70s. So like kids aren't super jacked up to see those people.
I read it was like a YouTube. I watched like some YouTube video about Hocus Pocus and prep. I really did my research, guys. And I think I read. Well, not only is there like a book about this, but apparently the script for this was originally way darker than it was in the
Okay.
movie. So
I
I
believe
think it
that.
got. I think the all those like adult jokes are just remnants from that script that I don't know. I'd be pretty curious to read because I think it was supposed to be much spookier than it actually was.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, the lady, the wife of the director, Zach, you said she was in Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah.
So if that was out in the 70s and this movie came out in 93, I think there's something there that they're trying to tack on as many little bits that make the movie more appealing to the parents watching it with their kids.
Hmm.
Because I think the biggest takeaway I took from it tonally, or I guess overall as a review, is that the movie was inoffensive, I suppose, if that makes sense. It wasn't like the greatest movie I've ever seen, and particularly not the greatest movie of this genre, like family friendly Halloween movies. But nothing about the movie was bad in any way. So I think it is just trying to reach as broad of a general audience as humanly possible by having all this goofy kid stuff going on, and then these little nods, things that maybe mom who's born in the 70s and grew up watching Laverne and Shirley sees that character in the background and has a little moment of aha, oh, there's that lady. Okay, wow, I recognize that. This movie's more interesting than I thought it might be. That sort of thing.
I also think for a movie made in the 90s, one of the reasons that maybe it's stuck around is there's nothing that is super problematic 30 years later.
Yeah.
At least nothing glaring. Like there is obviously some like inappropriate sexual comments towards women, and especially can we talk about Max's dad? Like I fucking the teenager that comes to the dance. No, you guys didn't pick up on that at
Well,
all. Where he's like, "Ooh," as the vampire. Um, yeah, that was probably the worst, but I don't think there's anything that's like super gross.
Sarah Jessica Parker is just like, oh, boys, like the hot witch.
Yeah.
You know, she's always trying to bang Max. Like that's I don't know, it wasn't directly like that, but she was obsessed with boys.
Well,
I
and
mean,
I feel like
that's why it's a kids movie. But one thing that kind of was like, again, it's a kids movie pretty much, so I can't really complain too much about it. But like, there was the fat witch who always wanted to eat, the hot witch that just liked boys, and then the witch that actually progressed the plot.
yeah, the witch.
there was
Yeah.
like the actual one with powers. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't complain too much about it, but it was just like I don't know. Maybe it's just me looking back on it, but
So this was something that was hard for me. What do you guys think are like the hallmarks of this movie? If we're going to make uh, a sequel to this movie, what are the things that need to be carried over?
Resurrection. I think that's the biggest one is
yes,
people, them coming back from the lighting of a candle. A virgin lights a candle and it brings them back. Just
yeah,
that's the thing that could keep this story going as many times as they wanted to.
yeah. They they died. They turned into stone at the end of movies. That's super important. I've got some groundbreaking stuff. So I studied literature, of course, and I was delving into like my postmodernist theories. I was even getting to some ethical philosophy, some Kantian theology, and in delving real deep in this movie, I almost wrote like a research paper, kind of researching this. I kind of figured out that one of the themes is Halloween. I don't know if you guys figured that out.
I think it was subtle, but
Yeah, it was just, you really got to study lit for at least 4 years, if not a master's degree, to really understand that. So Halloween, I think, needs to be the time frame in which this happens.
so speaking of that, like I don't want to cut you off here. The craziest thing for me when I looked at the IMDb page for this movie was that
July.
this movie came out in the middle of July.
July. I was just about to
Like
What?
it's definitely a Halloween movie. It takes place on Halloween, and they released this movie
Yeah.
in the middle of the summer.
I think it bombed. Like it did
Huh.
not do
It
well.
would have had to have, right?
Yeah,
I'm
Because
seeing looks like the box office is under twice the budget. So yeah, it made back less than 1.5 times its budget. Which is not good. Yeah, it's not the best. I wonder what happened there. That there has to have been another movie that was moved to October, bumping this movie to July. And it's released by Disney. So I wonder what big Disney movie came out in October of '93.
I don't know. I see that in the same day Free Willy came out. So that would probably, I don't know, that was a pretty popular movie. Robin Hood Men in Tights came out. I mean, there's some classic movies that came out like the month of this movie. Dude, Weekend at Bernie's 2?
Nightmare Before Christmas was released through Disney in October of 1993. So I wonder,
that probably would have done it.
yeah, I wonder if maybe Disney didn't originally, maybe they weren't the production company behind it, and then suddenly they got it or something. But yeah, they wouldn't have wanted both of these movies competing against each other. I know if I had to choose between the two of those, I would go see The Nightmare Before Christmas.
So in addition to that, I just found an article really quick that talked about 1993 possibly being the best year for Halloween themed family movies because Hocus Pocus came out, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Double Double Toil and Trouble, which was a Olsen twins vehicle, which like it wasn't good, and The Addams Family Values.
Nice.
All would have been movies that came out in 1993. So that could be the reason that it did so poorly.
I mean,
Or was it
yeah.
week moved?
I don't know. I mean, it was released in theaters, but I mean, it feels like a Disney Channel movie. I mean, if you guys are familiar, like it feels like something that I honestly wouldn't have guessed it came out in theaters at all. Like I just assumed it came out on the Disney Channel when I was a kid.
It does have the feeling of a movie that was not made for the big screen. Like there are no like moments where like, could you imagine seeing this happen on a gigantic screen? Or you know what I mean? It's all relatively low stakes, kind of low impact images that
budget.
aren't yeah.
But dude, that CGI, I mean, I don't know how that holds up in 93, but that CGI cat was bugging me.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if I was sitting close, but I was like, ugh. Like,
I mean, it wasn't the
it
best.
was more practical.
Yeah, I thought there was something going on that was a little practical. It was sitting in a weird
animatronic.
Yeah.
I thought its face, maybe it was the version I saw, but its face was animated, but there was a real cat.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's like talking, like it's mouthing for him, whatever that dude's name was. Thad?
Thackeray Binks.
Thackeray.
So would we say that Thackeray Binks is a hallmark of this movie, the talking cat, or just a familiar of any kind?
Yeah, a talking cat, a familiar, but maybe not him necessarily. Doesn't he passes? He gets to pass on at the end of the movie,
he does
right?
Die for real.
Yeah.
And apparently, like, I had big issues with that because it makes no sense that he gets turned into a cat, the sisters die, but his soul doesn't get released. Like, the catch is they have to be brought back from the death and then die again for him to be released from the spell.
Well, he was trying to save her, right, at the beginning?
Yes.
So maybe it's the act of kind of they defeat them and her spirit is set to rest so he can move on with her. Like that was his unfinished business.
So his unfinished business is he has to save the soul of a child from these witches.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
That makes a lot more sense.
What another issue I had, and it's not that big of an issue, but they cast a spell of immortality and turned that dude into a cat, and they just wanted to live forever, but had to like suck the souls out of children. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, come on, what? in Dungeons and Dragons terms, like your levels of spells are kind of all out of whack, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
that seemed like a big plot hole that they can cast a spell that makes someone live forever, but for they themselves to live forever, it requires a lot more work.
Yeah, they have to smoke children's souls.
Well,
Yeah.
what about the idea there that it's a curse for Thackeray because he doesn't want to live forever stuck in the soul of a cat, but they do want to live forever. So it's much more difficult for them because it's something that they actively desire. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about like the witchy mindset.
No, I thought that it wasn't just immortality, but like it was youth. Like they wanted to stay
Yeah.
vibrant and youthful, and being a cat isn't necessarily the ideal lifestyle for a witch.
That cat didn't look old though. He had a
That was a
youthful
young,
pep.
sexy cat.
Yeah.
So we have Resurrection of Witches, Halloween, and a talking cat. The other thing that I feel like is a not necessarily 100% necessary, but I feel like definitely plays a big role in the movie is the kids have to be like transplants. They cannot be. There has to be this element of the outsider, somebody who isn't part of that culture. Because how many jokes were centered around Max being from Hollywood?
Yeah.
Because he's from California. Like from minute one, he laughs off the witches, and they're like, "Well, what does everybody in California think?" And then the bullies call him Hollywood and uh, New Kid on the Block, and there's all of these. Like he's just constantly bullied from not being from there, uh, and that I think that's a weird thing about this movie.
The like the fish out of water element, the
Mhm.
emphasis on humor of an outsider character.
It seemed like a weird attempt for him, just an excuse to get him to be bullied. Maybe
Yeah.
like he was a normal looking kid. I don't know. Maybe I get. I don't know if that. I guess it can be a required element, but I just didn't know. I don't know
I
what it
don't think it's necessarily required. I think that not being part, like there has to be some way that the main character is not just generally accepted by everybody, um, because they can't be like the popular jock,
Yeah,
because that's not Max. Um, I also think that the brother and sister relationship is like I finished the movie and the very last thing I wrote in my notes was it turns out this movie was about brothers and sisters all along, because one of the final shots is Thackeray Binks walking away with his sister hand in hand as ghosts, just as like Max has risked his life for Danny. Thackeray Binks risked his life and was successful, um, I guess ish, for his sister. So that sibling relationship, um,
yeah,
maybe is something to shoot for.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I definitely can get behind that idea. I kind of have a surrogate sibling type of relationship in my pitch.
So let's go ahead and like I generally thought it was very difficult to come up with a list of things that this movie needs to check off because it's just like it's a Halloween movie and it's got to have
Hmm.
the witch, it's got to have the Sanderson sisters in it, and it's got to be a Halloween movie. And like
Yeah.
that's kind of where I ended it all was like
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
The Sanderson sisters. Like honestly, just a copy and paste of the previous movie's main conflict. Just like, all right, the Sanderson sisters want to do something evil to like, be younger or what have you, and they have to be stopped because some child's life is at stake. I don't know. I mean,
Mhm.
that's kind of how I use mine. There might be different ways to go about it.
No, I think we're definitely going to get a. I don't know about your guys' pitches, but I think I have a similar like Star Wars Episode 7 vibe where I'm pretty much recreating the original just with like different people filling out the spots, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Where like I'm hitting the same exact points except there's just the roles are all different new people. Um, all right, so let's get into it then.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Mine is super absurd. So I feel like if your guys are like legitimate pitches, it might be best to start with a grounded one that relates to the movie before throwing this crazy shit into the mix.
Mine's a little bit wonky, maybe not as crazy as Storm's making his out to be.
So
'Cause-
I feel like mine is super like right down the barrel. So I'll start
Okay.
and then we'll just slowly diverge into maybe something that's funnier. So with my movie, the character Danny is now the mother of two children, and we're going to inverse the genders. So we have 16-year-old Maxine and 12-year-old Danny. And like I named them Maxine and Danny because I thought about it. I'm like, oh, you're hilarious. And it's going to be super complicated now that I think about it. But I'm still going to keep calling them Maxine and Danny. So they've recently moved back to Salem after the death of their father. There's a boy in school that seems like a real rebel, but Maxine is drawn to him because he is like kind of this bad boy. His name will be Will, and it will later be revealed that he is a warlock and he's a descendant of Billy Butcherson, the zombie from the movie. He's got a talking ferret. I think I can change that to a cat. That we find out later is his third grade teacher who upset him. So anyway, Max, the original Max, still lives in Salem. He had his 15 minutes of fame when he became a rap singer, who basically came up with the Monster Mash version of a rap. So he's like a one-hit wonder who every Halloween his like little rap song is like the jam for everybody at the Halloween parties. And so he basically just lives off residuals in Salem, Massachusetts. So Danny has to leave town for business, leaving Max, her older brother, to look after Maxine and Danny. Maxine especially is super upset with this move, and they inevitably sneak out and go to the Sanderson house, who their mother has talked about nonstop. But they never really believed in any of it. They thought it was all just a bunch of hocus pocus, if you will. So in a move of rebellion, Maxine lights the black flame candle because she thinks it's all just not real. And Winifred, the sisters come back. Winifred recognizes these children as Danny's kids and vows to get her revenge. That's when Will, the boy from school, saves them. It will later be revealed that he was there to steal the book because he is a warlock. Cut to them getting back to their Uncle Max, who teams up with Allison from the original movie. They didn't work out, obviously. Turns out she is a witch. We're going to find out throughout the course of this movie that the entire town of Salem, Massachusetts is more or less a giant witch coven.
Whoa.
And so just hilarity ensues where the Sandersons don't really understand how to use technology. We make jokes based on them not being familiar with the 2020s. And then there's basically three storylines running throughout this. There's the Sanderson sisters trying to kill Maxine and Danny for revenge on Danny, the girl they could never get. The Sanderson sisters trying to bring back their mother, who they talk about multiple times in the original movie, to help them since they don't know where the book is. And they need to get the book back from Will once they figure that out to ensure he doesn't use it for dark magic purposes. And ultimately, they succeed. Maxine learns how to look after her brother a little bit better because in the end, this movie is all about sibling relationships.
Well, that's probably the most plausible sequel.
Yeah, that sounds like a for real sequel. If I were to have to predict what they would do for even like a soft reboot of a modern day version of Hocus Pocus, that totally, I expect that movie to be made. If any executives are listening to this, they're going to steal that idea.
I love it.
Oh yeah, and I like the. I don't know. You said it was like a weasel or a ferret. I like that. Familiar should stay the same, but I like switching up the animal.
Yeah, I didn't want to just do a cat because it wasn't Binks. So I thought changing the animal might be better because then we have no confusion on whether or not this is Thackeray Binks.
Yeah, and actually, while you were talking, you mentioned like the Monster Mash song, and one of our requirements should be a musical number, like of a famous
right on
song. I think we need that in the movie for sure.
So funny you should bring that up, because I told you guys earlier today that I wrote a rap for this, because I can't just say that Max grew up to be a rap singer without writing the rap that made him famous. Um,
Rap
and let me
singer.
tell you, I sang it, I rapped it to my wife, and it was maybe the most embarrassing moment of our relationship, the most vulnerable I've ever felt. um, so I can do it now, or we can save it for later. Um, but I just want you to know that it exists. Whether or not it makes it into the podcast is another thing.
Let's close with it. Let's save it till the very end.
I'm
Let it
good for
build.
that.
Close with it. All right. Dope. Is there anything else you want to add to your?
I mean, I skipped over some stuff. I think the big takeaway I had when watching the original was that Allison, the girl who obviously becomes like Max's girlfriend, definitely puts off some witch vibes. She wears like a big red cloak at one point. Her parents are having like a weird, creepy masquerade party. She's the one that opens the book, which allows the witches to find them. So she just gave me a lot of like witch energy. And so I thought like that's kind of how I got into Salem just being all witches.
Yeah.
Was because she definitely read witch to me in the original.
Interesting. That potentially adds like a sort of serious, more mature angle to the fact that the Sanderson sisters were hung in Old Salem, but if everybody's witches, then there's like a like this big hypocrisy to the population of the town. They're anti-witch while everybody still feels it a little bit. I think that kind of would add to their revenge, their bitterness, their want to take these people down. They're no better than them. They're no different. It's very interesting. It sounds totally plausible, like absolutely like a real movie.
There's also, I don't know if you guys found this in your research, there is a Hocus Pocus 2 in the works. I did not search to see what the plot of that movie was. But I'm very like, maybe that's how we should end this episode, is like read a synopsis of what Hocus Pocus 2 actually is and see how close we got.
I don't know if they actually have that available, because I saw that as well, but I thought they announced it right, at the beginning of like the quarantine, the shutdown, so they might not have worked on it. But if it's there, let's do it.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I saw a photo shoot of the actresses who played the Sanderson sisters this year, dressed up in costume, and I was wondering if that was sort of like an announcement for like the trade publications and whatnot of Hocus Pocus 2. So if there isn't anything out yet, I would imagine that photo shoot kind of surfacing would mean that it's on the horizon. So if there isn't anything out there now, maybe by the time this podcast airs, anybody listening to it, you may very well know the plot to Hocus Pocus 2, and where we do not.
Yeah, and we'll get in touch with our lawyers and, borrowed without our permission. Get some of that Hocus Pocus green.
I can go next. I think it's a good contrast to Zach's extremely plausible and well thought out pitch. My idea is based around the idea that there are a lot of these movies kind of from this era that are these family friendly, broad Halloween spooky comedies, but the worlds that they exist in have really vague rules that are vague enough that, in my opinion, a lot of these movies could totally exist within one shared universe. And that universe, I think the simplest way to distill it is the Scooby-Doo-niverse, featuring the characters from, well, really only two characters, Shaggy and Scooby, from the Scooby-Doo movie from the early 2000s. If you remember, there is a series of movies, and I'm obsessed with Scooby-Doo, and I listened to the previous podcast, and I mentioned it there as well. I feel like I always like bringing Scooby-Doo into the mix if I can, but here I legitimately think it does apply.
All right.
So there was a series of movies in, I want to say the 70s, that were kind of like Scooby-Doo spin-offs. The one I remember is called Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. It just features Scooby and Shaggy, and they encounter a whole bunch of real supernatural figures, which poses the idea that in the Scooby-Doo world, there's all sorts of real monsters. It's not just Old Man Jenkins disguised. So my pitch would start with Scooby and Shaggy are driving the Mystery Machine alone on Halloween. They're in the middle of the woods, and they're freaking out. Shaggy's like, "Oh, Scoob, I don't know where I am, man. We're lost." And suddenly, the a ghost train, which is an element from a sequel to the movie Casper the Friendly Ghost, the train that carries souls to the afterlife. This ghost train comes barreling by, but Scooby and Shaggy can't see it. And aboard the train are the Sanderson sisters, or at least their spirits. And they're kind of peeking through the window, and they see the Mystery Machine, and they've had a plan. They've had a plan in action for years since they were defeated in the first movie. So they cast what little magic they can muster from the afterlife, and they pop one of the tires of the Mystery Machine. So it goes crashing. Scooby and Shaggy get out, and they're kind of our fish out of water characters, our outsiders. They start walking, and they stumble upon a mansion, kind of a spooky looking mansion. This mansion will be revealed to be the mansion from the movie Casper the Friendly Ghost, featuring Casper, his uncles, and then Bill Pullman and Christina Ricci as Wendy and whatever Wendy's dad's name was. But Scooby and Shaggy go into the house, and it's dark. They're wandering around. It's spooky. There's cobwebs. And they wander into a room that's... we recognize right away as the audience that what we see on a pedestal are the candle and the grimoire. But Shaggy doesn't know what's going on, so he walks in and he lights this candle right away. And immediately the whole place kind of comes to life. And Casper and his uncles bust in, and they're kind of like, what's going on? Who are you guys? What's happening? And at the same time, the front doors fling open, and the Sanderson sisters, completely resurrected, come into the mix, vowing their revenge. But also, they're vowing their revenge on Max and Danny and Allison and the whole crew from the first movie. But they're here to get these people who they've had roped into this plot to bring them back this whole time. They're going to use their energy to rejuvenate themselves. So I don't have a lot fleshed out, but my idea is it's this massive crossover situation that is witches versus witches. So we've got Wendy from Casper is a witch in the original Casper continuity, the old cartoons. I don't know if they did that in the Christina Ricci movie, but it's part of the canon. So in this movie, she's a witch. She calls on Sabrina Spellman and her aunts to come help her fight these Sanderson sisters because they have heard of them. They've heard of this legend of them. And them, along with Scooby and Shaggy, kind of go to bat, trying to take them down before they can beat them. Maybe right at the beginning, maybe Scooby gets kidnapped by the Sanderson sisters, and they're going to do, because he's kind of familiar-esque, he can talk. They kidnap Scooby, and they're going to do a ritual to gain their youth through draining Scooby. So everybody else has got to save him. And that's really it. I didn't develop it beyond that, but I like the idea of this shared universe with Sabrina, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Scooby-Doo, and the Hocus Pocus witches.
So the only problem I have with this movie idea is that you have Shaggy lighting the black flame candle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yes.
The only problem with that is that Shaggy fucks. So there's no way he's a virgin.
You know what? I strike that. Let's reset the whole thing there. Scooby lights the candle, which is also why Scooby's the one they grab right away.
Because he was neutered, so he can't really.
So he can't.
Or maybe it's Scrappy. In those movies that I was referencing, the Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf, it's usually Scooby, Shaggy, and then Scrappy's along for the ride too. So maybe he's there.
And that would track because Scrappy is the one that usually gets them into shit. I also like the Sabrina the Teenage Witch, kind of bring in, because then you have pretty much the exact same cat.
Yes. Yeah. Salem.
Which I thought, when I thought this was an animatronic cat, I assumed that Sabrina the Teenage Witch just yoinked the exact same cat out of the prop department and just gave it a different voice.
Yeah, that kind of informed the whole pitch that I developed was that cat really reminding me of Salem. And then it was like, well, what if it's a shared universe? And then, if it's a shared universe, what else can be in it? And I thought about the Addams Family too for a second, but Christina Ricci's in that as well. and I would rather have her as Wendy from Casper and have the ghosts than the Addams Family. I feel like that's really vague, and there aren't any rules at all. So in honor of keeping it somewhat consistent and bound within this world, I omitted the Addams Family. But I think fun cameos from other properties would be interesting, such as like Beetlejuice, just for a second, things like that. But it's pretty lofty.
Honestly,
Like
it sounds like more of a, like, maybe just because it's Scooby Doo, but it sounds like more of a cartoon movie scene.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like
Mhm.
it's absolutely crazy to have like all these three different movies combined, but
But if it
Yeah,
wasn't right,
but
like we could make it an animated movie.
yeah.
Like there are no rules against that, I guess.
Well, and Scooby Doo and Shaggy, well, the whole Mystery Inc. gang back in the day, they used to have guest stars all the time that were real people. Or I guess no one that I'm talking about is a real person, so I don't know why I said that. Uh, but they would have big fictional Batman and Robin, I guess. I think even like Cheech and Chong. Don't quote me on that, but I'm going to stick to that for the time being. Cheech and Chong, Batman and Robin. Now Hocus Pocus and the Casper people and Sabrina. Yeah. Oh, one final thing before we move on. Okay, so Shaggy in this movie will be played by Matthew Lillard from the Scooby Doo movies from the early
yeah,
2000s.
obviously. Like
Except,
he's Shaggy.
oh, he's one shaggy dude. But so in Scooby Doo canon, there are sometimes Shaggy's wearing a green shirt. Usually he's wearing a green shirt when he's in the Mystery Inc. gang. And then in these movies that I am referencing, where it's just Scooby and Shaggy encountering supernatural figures, he's always wearing a red shirt.
Right,
And
yeah.
I even saw that it's referred to as Red Shirt Shaggy. So I think in this movie, he is Red Shirt Shaggy.
I like it.
I don't know. It is a fun detail, and it would help separate the universe a little bit.
Do you think it would all be possible that the green shirt Shaggy and the red shirt Shaggy could exist in separate universes?
Yeah, absolutely.
That could also collide in this whole.
Well, because there's two Sabrina universes,
Mm-hmm.
and so that could there could very well be a concept like a multiverse sort of idea or parallel dimensions.
yeah. So before I get into my pitch, this is just in storm. Our research team came back, and apparently Cheech and Chong Scooby Doo is, I think, just a T-shirt that you might have seen, because the only thing
Ah,
that comes up is Cheech and Chong and Scooby Doo
man.
in a van on a T-shirt, and I don't see any episode.
Okay, well that would be cool, but yeah, all right. I probably did see that shirt. I'm sure that's where that came from.
I mean, this is also based off of a quick Google search, but yeah.
No, it would have come up for sure, for sure.
Why did you just have that in your head?
Well, I was thinking of duos that could have cameoed in Scooby-Doo from back in the day, people who would have been, and also probably subconsciously because there's that Harvey Birdman episode where Scooby and Shaggy get pulled over and there's smoke coming out of the windows. Scooby and Shaggy kind of seem like, they could be a stoner duo. They're not, but they have that same sensibility. So Cheech and Chong, Scooby and Shaggy, it's like interchangeable. They should have met. If they we will make them meet if we make this movie.
I like the idea that also I want Scooby Doo to actually be a familiar of one of like Shaggy's old friends or something. Like that'd be pretty.
That would be a great reveal.
Like, oh, that's why the dog talks.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're done, I'll go ahead and start off with mine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all you.
Alrighty. So my inspiration for the start of my pitch was at the end of the movie. I don't know if you guys remember, but the credits start on that book and it opened its eyes and it was freaking out the bullies, who are Jay and Ernie, also known as Ice.
Ice.
Also, one of my theories was that like drugs was a theme in this movie, because drugs were a theme in this movie, because we have the tie-dye clothes of Max coming from California. His last name is Dennison, but if you say it a certain way, it's Denizen.
Okay.
A smoker from California, from LA. And the witches smoke. They literally inhale the souls out of the children. And then Ice, also known as meth.
They ask him for drugs.
They
when
ask if he
confront him.
has cigarettes on him
Mm.
before
Oh, I
they
thought they
steal
were
his
asking for
shoes.
weed.
Well, I don't. I think they ask if he has a butt, and I took that as
Okay.
a cigarette, a
Yeah.
cigarette
Yeah.
Yeah,
term.
because they're like, you don't have any
Um,
smokes. Like, well, we need
yeah,
your sick cross trainers, bro.
yeah.
So dumb. Anyway, so that ending scene is like them still in the cages, but the book opens at its eyes, and I always thought that was like kind of like, like oh, there could be a sequel kind of like lead off. And so I started off is that the book opens up a spell page and somehow like casts its own little spell. Maybe it was like prepped by the sisters that turn those bullies into like trolls or like ogres, like some ugly like witchy sort of monster, and they're under the spell of where their whole goal is to serve the Sanderson sisters after they die. And through some weird spell, maybe in the book, they concoct a way to open a portal to hell. And they open a portal to hell in the house, and they make contact with the Sanderson sisters, who are currently living in hell. And I'm going to say that they were gone about 300 years. So let's say they hell has progressed as well in that time. Like they were in hell while they were dead those 300 years, but now because they were killed by the kids, they're actually dead and they were sent back to hell instead of just not existing. So hell is like this weird like 2020 like futuristic version. They're used to like, Puritan times. Like the last time they were in hell was like Puritan times, like, people, carts and wagons, that sort of hell. But this is like a modernized version of hell where it's like a Gotham City, perhaps like a slummy metropolitan place, and they're like a fish out of water because they're like, oh no, hell has changed so much, and like there's goofy moments where they're like trying things and all this weird stuff happens. But anyway, so the trolls get in contact with the Sanderson sisters in hell, and the Sanderson sisters, because they've gotten the book from the trolls, or also known as the previous bullies, because they got the book from them. They learn of a spell that not only will make them younger, but it will, if they get enough child virgin souls, they can undo death because they've sucked so much life and be resurrected and go back into the mortal plane, which is obviously, even for a witch, better than chilling in hell. In hell, there's like warlocks, monsters, just a goofy, dark fantasy world. But also, a niche isn't a little thing about hell is that it's now like a capitalist economy. Like it was just new to them. Like they're like used to like bartering and shit. So it's like this capitalist economy, and they actually sell child souls. But also what inspired this is honestly just a stupid title that I'll get to later. But they what they do is they inhale the child souls. Like they're clearly just breathing it in. So because it's like a 2020 hell, everyone buys child souls in like vape form. Like they smoke jewels and like big like batteries, and they just vape child souls, but it costs a lot of money and it keeps them like, so it's like one like vape fluid pack like in like one vape sesh is like a very small, minuscule amount of a child's soul. So they barely get enough to stay young and fresh. So it costs a lot of money. And I had this theory that the Sanderson sisters like might have had a lot of money, but because they were meddling in human affairs on the mortal world, Satan fined them and taxed all of their gold away. So they barely have enough to smoke, to vape. So it turns them into much younger versions in themselves, like younger versions in the movie. Not that young. Honestly, they're probably going to be around the same age. I'm not sure how old the actresses were that played the sisters, but I just want a new cast. So that's kind of what's going on in hell. There's that little subplot. Also, I want the some weird. Oh, hold on here. I want some weird scenario where the bus driver, because I really like that bus driver. I call him Bobo because the first time he sees the witches and he goes, Babo, Babo, I'm in trouble. Whoa! Like, so I'm just calling
No,
him Bob.
I think he's saying bubble, bubble, toil and trouble, but he's doing it with like a super East Coast accent. Like he just made a character decision. So he's like, Babo, Babo, toil and trouble.
Babo, Babo, I'm in trouble.
Oh man.
So
He
he's
might say I'm in trouble, yeah.
so maybe before, like right when they open the gate to hell, the two bully trolls. Babo is just he's trying to get some action, man, and he followed the sisters back to their house. After he gave him the bus ride, after he gave him the bus ride, and so he's there, but he encounters the trolls and he falls into hell, and he actually gets turned into a demon by the sisters when they go into hell with the trolls, and him, Babo the bus driver, and the two trolls are the mortal bodies that do the work to ultimately kidnap as many children into hell who is who so they kidnap children in the hell. And how do they get there? Of course, a demonic bus that flies through the portal and picks up children.
Ah.
The trolls break into kids' house all around Salem, kidnap them, and there's like rumors of like a serial killer going around maybe at the beginning of the movie. So this isn't even like the protagonist yet. I haven't even introduced that, but this is like the evil that's going on. So Babo's like still in love with the sisters, and they kind of control him to take kids. The trolls kidnap him, drive the bus, go to hell, and they're trying to get enough collection of souls because they can't afford it in hell to resurrect themselves and become alive again. So there we go to our protagonists in Salem. We have Max and Allison. They're of course married, and they had two kids, a brother and a sister. I like switching the keeping the ages the same, but switching the genders. So we have an older sister, and then maybe a younger 8-year-old brother. But also we have Danny, the sister, who happens to be very interested in witchcraft now. So Danny is being taunted by witchcraft. Even after all of that experience, I mean, she knows witches are real, so she's like super enticed. And essentially, what will happen is that the younger sibling, the younger child of Max and Allison, gets kidnapped, and the sister goes after him, and then the parents and Danny end up going after him, and all these shenanigans ensue until they foil the plot in hell, which is where most of I want the plot to, kind of happen. Maybe like, Danny could be outside of hell, and, because of her witchy ways, she could research a way that comes in and saves the parents and the daughter from, some peril that happens. I didn't really think past that, but that's pretty much what I'm proposing. And one thing I really did want to happen was I wanted Danny to eventually become a witch, but like a witch with like kind of good morals. Like you don't know if she's going to be evil or bad. Like you think she's going to be like with the Sanderson sisters, but there's like a change of heart at the end, and everyone's happily ever after, and they escape from hell.
Wait, they do it? They escape from hell like a cliffhanger escape from hell?
No, like there was, they break into hell, stop their plot. They've captured a lot of children, but they prevent the Sanderson sisters from resurrecting. I mean, I don't really know. I didn't really plan how it ends. I want to leave some stuff open for us to kind of BS about if we chose mine. But
So
right on.
with yours, I'm getting a running theme of when we talked about Back to the Future, we definitely did like a Bill and Ted. And I feel like yours is a Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
oh yeah,
Like I feel like everything just comes back. I really like the Ernie, the Ice, and Jay.
Oh yeah.
I almost brought them up as like they don't necessarily need to be integral to the plot, but we need to like see them get their comeuppance because they suck, and like nothing really like they just get left in a cage at the end of the movie, and like so do they just die or
I like that idea that they would kind of they do die, but then they're resurrected in servitude. So they're still there, but they're just these grunt guys. I like that quite a bit.
yeah, they're like comic relief because they're still goobers, but they're like slaves to the witches and do their bidding because, like, the witches can't get out of hell because they're trapped there.
In your, do you think they still have those outfits, Jay and Ice?
That would be pretty sweet. Like, Ice looks like a Run DMC rapper.
Yeah, I like their style.
So I think the best way to like start this movie is to carry over the Ernie, the Ice and Jay. I think we could turn them into zombies, like a Billy Butcherson is, and that basically be like a spell that was primed on them. The book is what like really puts the spell on them, but the witches maybe did that before they left as like an insurance policy. So I definitely think that needs to be something that uh, they're in the mortal plane, like working things. Um, I really do like the Scooby Doo universe crossover though. Like
It's pretty absurd,
I
and
don't
they're
know that we can do all of it, but
the
I
licensing is
yeah.
super complicated. Because Hocus Pocus, I watched it on Disney Plus, and then I realized Scooby Doo. If I wanted to watch that, I'd have to go over to HBO Max because it's Warner Brothers.
Mhm.
So there's two competing major studios that would have to come to some sort of licensing agreement to get the two main properties. So I don't know. It's cool, but it's so absurd. I don't know. Your guys' are much more realistic, practical pitches for a real Hocus Pocus too.
So is Sabrina the Teenage Witch possibly a Disney property?
I'm
Um,
not
I
sure.
think it I think it was an ABC show, which would make it
Ah,
Disney.
and then if Casper is as well, that would be great. I just love the idea of Wendy calling Sabrina because of her reputation, like she's famous. So he's like, "Oh, I've got some people who can help us out, a witch and her aunts or what have you." And then this big reveal of Sabrina showing up.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to worry about legal stuff. Let's just pretend it all, one big monopoly. Disney exists and has bought every right to everything at
Yeah,
this
you
point.
guys have these strong kind of this lineage, this generational aspect going on in your pitches, which I got to admit, as much as I do like my pitch, one of my favorite things in movies in general is the idea of lineage, or a character being a generational character. Like this movie is about that character's kids, and so we're seeing these direct parallels, but twisting it a little bit, and then I really like when they can find thematic elements that maybe pull at a stronger heartstring because it's something like echoing down, like a flaw from the parents coming into the kids or causing harm to the kids or something they have to work through together. Um, so if even if we do include the Scooby Doo stuff and the Sabrina stuff, I really want to have some of these kids of the characters from the first movie involved as well.
Yeah, I like the crossover, but I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. I know barely anything about Casper and Sabrina, so putting in
Oh
stuff
yeah,
that way for plotting some, I'm gonna have a real hard time. I think Scooby Doo, and then of course this movie is the thing I'm most familiar
yeah.
with. So
Yeah, I didn't even have a plot. I just had a concept. You guys have like story beats and whatnot.
I just really like the idea of red shirt Shaggy Scooby Doo universe.
Well,
Um,
maybe we bring that back at a later date and
somehow
further
we
develop the red shirt Shaggy Scooby
I
Doo
mean,
universe, the
they
Scooby Doo universe.
they could be in hell.
Yeah,
I like that idea. Like red shirt Shaggy's in hell.
So here's how I feel as far as Nick's outright pitch. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work because so much of it takes place in hell
it was kind
for
of dark.
for a children's movie.
Yeah,
And I
I think
don't necessarily think that's a children's movie. I think we're setting it up for this is a movie for the people who grew up watching Hocus Pocus 2 or Hocus Pocus, and now you get a more adult version of it.
but hell doesn't have to be like decapitations and stuff. It's just like this grimy place where some bad things happen.
I think we might exist in a time where you can't do a movie that is for kids where they go to an afterlife that's defined like that. That is like a heaven or a hell. It has to be more vague unless the movie is aimed for a more like a PG-13 at the very least.
So what we could do is have kind of two storylines. We have the hell plane, which is because I do like the idea of the Sanderson sisters going to hell and it being an evolved, um, like futuristic version of hell that's now capital, like more reflective of the America they died in. Um, and so I like that side of it, and we could see them like on their end trying to work their way back. But then we also have this other storyline of zombie J, zombie Ice making moves to bring the sisters back, and maybe the either Danny, Max, the children of one of them, is kind of discovering this and sees that, like, oh, it's the Sanderson sisters coming back, and they actually suspect it to be the Sanderson sisters. And then the kind of turn is they realize it's not the Sanderson sisters; it's these two like Run DMC dressed zombies who they don't know. But then that's where we could bring in Danny or Max, and they would identify them as Jay and Ice.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Max and Allison definitely don't have to be married. I like the combination of your surface world plot with my hell plot.
I have a silly idea. If Max is the character that Zach, you had developed, where he had this rap career and he was a one-hit wonder, what if he uses that rap song to appeal to zombie Ice and Jay? Because since they're kind of this they've got, like a hip hop culture element to them. They're like the Run DMC outfits. That's when maybe it's a joke until he uses it to make them dance or be on his side for a second. They use it to distract them.
Oh yeah, they're like backup dancers for the performance.
They're the skeletons to his David Pumpkins.
Yeah.
So 2 storylines. The witches are in hell, trying to adjust to a changed version, a changed 1990s version.
I love the idea of hell having developed, and so they're fish out of water as they were in the first one, but it's in this this afterlife environment. I think that's really clever.
It's funny. I just think of, I feel like I'm stealing it from someplace. I like to think, was the movie Spawn hell kind of like that, like a city environment? I can't.
I do not remember.
That's so vague.
I do not know Spawn that well. Too.
Yeah. True. I don't know. I just feel like I'm getting influence from something, but it's just like a modernized version of hell. Like,
I feel like in 2020, if you're pulling references from Spawn, you're okay. I don't think there's
people reviewing Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of Spawn heads that are going to be like, "What the fuck?"
I like Spawn.
You got to check that official Spawn canon.
Yeah. Spawn, Scooby-Doo, Casper, and Sabrina all together.
Throw Spawn into the Scooby. Okay, Red Shirt Shaggy versus Spawn. Oh yeah,
dude, we already need to make a Mortal Kombat game based off of that movie with just all the characters fighting each other.
Okay, so right now we have 2 storylines. We have the witches in hell trying to adjust to the 1990s version of hell, where it has become a capitalist hell where you can buy the souls of children. However, their money has been taxed. And so they are trying to make money in hell. Are they trying to make money in hell to buy children, or are they trying to get Jay and Ice to give them souls of children through like a hell portal?
So they're not trying to make money. They're literally kidnapping children from the surface.
Okay, so Jay and Ice are zombies kidnapping children that are then disappearing into a hell-like dimension where their souls are then sucked.
Yeah, smoke.
Okay.
Because I know we haven't talked about titles because I wanted this movie to be called Hocus Pocus.
Oh my god!
But that's tentative,
Okay, so it seems like the witches are kidnapping children, but it's actually Jay and Ice.
And Bobo on his bus. Is Bobo too much?
I think we can work him in. I honestly would much rather like to see like not him as an integral character, just as like some like a hell bus driver who goes to pick up the witches on his hell bus route and is like ho ho and like sees them again.
Okay. I like, and so a little joke when they first get into hell, them getting accustomed, they can't afford to drive anywhere, so they have to take public transportation. It turns out It's Bobo again.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
So it seems like the witches are kidnapping the children. It's Jay and Ice, sending them to get their souls sucked.
Oh, I
I'm going to
say
continue to say sucked.
I'm gonna laugh at that every single time.
So then we have. So are we going to have them be Max's children or Danny's children?
I like Danny's children with Uncle Max.
yeah.
So is Danny out of? Are we going to take my Danny
Sorry.
out of town idea, or
That's fine. I like that.
Yeah, sorry. Also, I did not mean to imply when I just said that Danny and Uncle Max were having the kids.
No.
I mean, Danny's kids, and then another character that comes to hang out. Uncle Max, former rapper.
Yeah, because it makes sense. Like, why would a former rapper have a family?
exactly?
Also, the rap angle kind of plays into his outsider element from the first movie, because if he was this one hit wonder, he theoretically you could say he went back to LA to try to make it big, and then he failed, so he came back to Salem.
So also in the movie, the whole reason I had him being a rapper is because his Halloween costume, he tells his parents that he is a rap singer. And that's, when his dad like takes his hat and turns it sideways. That's so he looks more like a rap singer. And then his entire rap that I wrote is just like a recount of Hocus Pocus, the original movie. So like it's him telling the story of what, like, he is not a good rapper. He had this extraordinary event happen to him, which he retells like as a warning. But everybody kind of took it as like a Halloween song. And so he's misunderstood in his music, I guess.
So there's like a darkness, like a trauma to this rapper artist version of Uncle Max. He tried to tell the world, but nobody took him seriously. So maybe he's kind of broken.
It's also extremely light in the way that it's delivered. So that could be where the miscommunication came in.
Okay.
All right. So Danny's out of town. Her kids are with Uncle Max. We have older daughter, younger son. They suspect the witches based on stories their mother has told them. So they seek out, I'm thinking they go to the Sanderson house like to seek out these witches to stop it, because they're noticing children are going missing in their city. Because they have, I like the idea of them recently moving, because that gives us the outsider of just the children being the outsiders. But I don't think we necessarily have to have that. It could still be Max is the outsider who has recently moved back to Salem. And so there's still like he left and he came back, and people are still giving him a hard time about being Hollywood. So I like that idea too, of like, hey, you old asshole, like you're still Hollywood. Guess you didn't make it.
LA to work his rap stuff. So
so we have an older daughter, a younger son. They suspect the witches. They go there. That's when they find Jay and Ice, who then I think the best way to incorporate Max identifying Jay and Ice is to have Jay and Ice basically chase them back to their house. And like Max opens the door. He's even out driving, looking for the kids. And he kind of comes across this whole situation where they're being chased. And he's like, hey, I know these guys. And he takes it not as them being zombies, but them being like just old assholes who are dressed up for Halloween scaring kids.
Can he not know who they are until he sees the ice shaved in the back of Ernie's head? Like, it's still there to this day. I like that being the reveal.
That's good.
So he sees these zombies chasing them in 90s clothes, and he's like, huh. And then they kind of run past, and then we zoom in on the back of Ice's head, and he's like, oh.
Or he's like, you got any bucks, man?
Yeah, they still ask for cigarettes, and he's like, no, it's 2020. Like, it's people don't smoke very often anymore.
Did Ice have his shoes on for the rest of the movie? The shoes that he stole?
He took them at the end. So he took them back.
Oh, okay. Yep.
That would have been a nice identifier, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then Max identifies them. Um, I almost feel like he should kill them or do something to. Um, we need to like end Jay and Ice, like their existence, so we can then get to the hell dimension to figure out like basically it could be that the very last souls that Jay and Ice gave them before they chased away older daughter and younger son, uh, names to be determined. Um, it could be that that was enough for the sisters to come back. So they go back to the Sanderson house, and the sisters are there now. What do
Or
you think? Because that then
well,
merges
okay.
those two.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out like whether or not the Sanderson sisters are already coming back from hell, or whether or not the heroes are going to go to this afterlife hell dimension
Yeah,
to
so we need to
confront them.
figure out, are they going to go to the hell dimension? Is it going to be just closing the portal to hell and there's no necessarily direct interaction between the two groups? Or are
Um,
they going to make it onto the mortal plane?
what if they track Jay and Ice? They like maybe they let somebody get caught, and they track them back through to see what the source is, and then the way they're getting through. I don't know. Maybe we already established this, so apologies if I am missing something here. But then we could bring back Bobo again as like maybe he's covertly helping them cross through the barrier in the bus.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah,
Um,
that would make sense because
but it does involve taking the heroes to hell, which is a little bit darker than maybe we're trying to go.
So, or we could have them track Jay and Ice back, and before they can like step in and rescue the child, that child's soul is enough. That child's soul gets sucked, and that's the last that's the tipping point of then they can come back.
It's enough for them to come through. I
Yeah,
like
and
that.
so maybe they didn't act quick enough on like they were too slow, or even like they rush in to stop it, and it's as easy as like Ice just like forearms this kid who falls into the hell portal, and it's too late at that point.
Do you guys know in Even Stevens the character Beans?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So what if there's like a character that's established as like the annoying neighbor that they don't like, and he's Beans. He's kind of like a Beans-esque guy or girl, and that's the character that they set up to be the bait, thinking that they'll get him, but then that character totally gets their soul sucked.
I feel like we can't have any sort of connection to this child because
Oh,
they
yeah.
let them, they let
But
them
isn't
get
it-
pushed into hell.
If you make him despicable, then it's funny. It's funny when the weird kind of slapstick terrible thing happens. I feel like if we don't know him, then there is maybe an element of sadness.
Maybe if it's a bully,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
make them
okay.
like a neighborhood street tough,
Yeah.
who's shaking down kids for candy or something.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, fuck this, let him go. And it could even be like we get the son, it's the bully of the young son, and so he's like, oh, like let him go, like let's trap
Yeah.
him.
I like that.
And the young son's bully gets killed, and he then has to deal with that of like he did win in the end, but at what cost?
Wow.
See, I want to fight against the idea that this has to be 100% PG because most of the audience is going to be older now, and sure they'll want to share it with their kids. But in regards to like violence and evilness and horror aspects, I feel like kids are more. I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think that pushing a child into the hell portal is necessarily like a super dark thing, because I think it can be done in a comedic way, and just like kind of the girl at the beginning of Hocus Pocus 1, where her soul gets smoked out of her body.
Thank you. The correct verbiage.
Like when they suck it. Um, like she dies, I think, in that moment, because like her ghost is still a young child ghost, and so there is definitely a child death in the first one, so I don't think we have to completely like gloss over it. I don't think like if we don't show a kid actually in hell, I don't think it's the worst thing. You know what I mean?
All right.
Yeah, I think it could honestly go either way. I'm trying to think of a modern movie that would kind of be a good example of the tone that they would go for, like a new Disney movie or something that's a spooky, family friendly movie. But I'm thinking of like the new Adams Family or like Hotel Transylvania or something that is like so broad and dumbed down for kids and doesn't really have anything. It's kind of a generalization though. I don't know that I've seen any of all of those movies, so for all I know, I'm totally wrong. Um, but Nick, I get where you're coming from in that people who saw it when they were younger, they do want to see some goofy, crazy twists and some humor that's appealing to them. But also feel like it would absolutely the Disney move would be the Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, the soft reboot route where there's enough that you see it as a kid and you don't have to have seen the first Hocus Pocus to get everything that's going on and it's still appealing to you.
Okay. So somehow we'll have to get the Sanderson sisters to be defeated without having gone to hell. Any of them gone to hell?
What if it's just not called hell? It's just like the afterlife or the other place or something like
Yeah,
that.
I mean that's probably less
I
strange.
think that will soften everything enough, um, that we're not doing anything that would be like questionable as far as for children.
Yeah. I don't even. I mean, personally, I don't think it is questionable, but I think just like broad general audience wise, it would be something that you would see something on the internet or a flurry of articles saying like, "Oh, new Hocus Pocus movie takes the heroes to hell." What message is this trying to send to America's youth?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. So like, would we? So where are we at now? I think we probably need to like.
They're following, or the Sanderson sisters just been resurrected, after sacrificing this bully through the portal to the afterlife, and now we got to figure out how the protagonists defeat them again.
Yeah, well, first they need to learn of the plot, right? Like they need to figure out, all right, what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Oh
I think it
man.
can be, I I think it can be as simple as just they see children from their town disappearing, and because of who their mother is, they're obviously aware of the stories, and it could even be like one of these kids is maybe witch obsessed. Maybe we do have like the younger son is super into the supernatural and everything, and that is something that like his older sister kind of, um, not necessarily makes fun of him about, but is not like, she sees him as like a weirdo, and so doesn't always stick up for him, and that could be the growth at the end is she realizes that her brother's knowledge of the supernatural is kind of what saved the day here.
Yeah, yeah. I also I like the idea of one of the characters from the original movie having either become a witch or becoming really, really obsessed with the witchcraft stuff. Like we had mentioned, Allison and Max didn't end up together, but Allison is pretty much a witch. What if she's like a teacher at the school and she has something that the kids have noticed? Whichever kid is obsessed with witchcraft, if it's the younger son, he's kind of influenced by her.
Yeah, and I think, having Max and Allison have kind of a reunion would definitely make for some comedy of this guy who went off to become a rapper, who didn't make it, with his ex girlfriend who's a witch.
Maybe there's like maybe the movie is a second chance for them, or we can play up the situation, I suppose. Um, like he's
So
trying to get back together, but do they, don't they? That kind of thread
I
could roll throughout.
think what we need to figure out then is, so where are we? Obviously, this can all just take place on Halloween. Like that's something that we
Mhm.
can build in. We have the resurrection of the witches,
Yeah,
the outsider fitting in. It could. We already have the fish out of water with the Sanderson sisters in 1990s hell. I think we could also have the outsider of like the younger son being, supernatural, obsessed, and so he's not necessarily an outsider, but he is viewed as odd by his sister. Um, and then we obviously have the sibling relationship. So where are we going to get the talking familiar?
Oh. Um. Hmm.
Who's a character from the previous movie?
So I just had this idea. You talked about how the son could have maybe noticed something from Allison, his teacher,
Mm-hmm.
that made him think that she was a witch. It could be that she has a cat or a dog or some animal that has talked to this kid.
I like the
Maybe
ferret.
maybe out of turn, when it wasn't supposed to, and that's why he recognizes it as a familiar,
Totally.
because this animal has talked to him. It could be even like a class pet that you take home, and it just felt like it really clicked with him for whatever reason. And so whenever he takes the class pet home, he full on has conversations with it, and like no one believes him. But that's kind of how he knows that his teacher is a witch. She is a white witch who will be able to help them.
That's good. That sounds so much like an element of a real sequel.
Yeah.
Uh, that he's having these secret conversations, or he's like, he's telling him like, oh, I know, she's a witch. The let's say it's a rat or a ferret. The ferret, Mr. Bobo, he talks to me. We have full on conversations, and then that leads to bullying and the kid being ostracized from his siblings and his family.
Yeah. No. Um, yeah, that sounds good. I like the White Witch idea. Um, so where do we go from here? Because we should probably wrap it up shortly.
So
Yeah.
I feel like we have a ton of moving parts at this point,
Yeah.
and so I think we just have like it sounds terrible, but maybe we just have like a Deus Ex Machina where Allison,
Mm.
the White Witch, has the power to just defeat them.
Totally. Or what if she needs the kids, the family, she needs everyone to believe to
Mhm.
give her the power. She almost has it. She knows she could be there if everyone would just believe and band together. We can send them back. That sort of thing.
And so the belief of the daughter that all of this is real,
Mm-hmm.
is kind of enough to. It could be like they're joining hands thing, and she has the power, but they are so like Max obviously believes, the son obviously believes, Allison obviously believes, but there's something short, and they don't know what it is. The Max and Allison don't know, but the son basically says like you have to believe, and then all of a sudden we have like a white light explosion, uh, killing the Sanderson sisters, and that is the daughter, finally believing in witchcraft, in this supernatural world.
Destroying all of the captured children's souls in the
Oh no.
Or freeing the captured children's souls.
oh,
So it could be, so there's our turn. That is how we save from being child murderers. Um, all of these captured children then like wander out of the woods, um, like unknowing of what has happened, and that's because all of their souls been sucked back into their own bodies.
okay.
Yeah.
The belief thing, it's a little sketchy. It's a little sketchy.
It's corny.
It's like Santa Claus stuff. Like you
It's
just got
if you guys have seen Halloween Town, it's what happens at the end of Halloween Town to beat the bad guy. The family has to believe, and there's the one brother who he doesn't believe he's a witch, but he is, and he has to believe. It's the exact ending.
maybe
So it's pretty much just stolen.
connect the belief of like the witch to just like the affinity towards Halloween in general. Like maybe that person, they don't like Halloween at all. Like
Well, there
you
is a
know,
line in the very beginning that Max says Halloween is a conspiracy made up by the candy
The
companies.
candy.
and
Yeah.
that is into the capitalistic themes of hell. So it could be an underlying theme of corporate greed.
And that could even be one of the first lines that the daughter says.
Yeah.
Kind of Max is like, well, why don't you take your brother trick or treating? And she says that exact thing, and Max gives kind of a knowing look, and he's like, yeah, I used to think that way too.
Nice.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, that's fine. Belief in Halloween and witches and spookiness. Do you guys want to kind of call that the conclusion and move
I
on to
think
quick
so.
chat?
Like we have a
Certainly.
lot of irons in the fire
Yeah,
with this movie,
Hard.
but I think that wraps it up as well as we can. So let's jump over then to um, our casting decisions.
totally.
So I think I just chose to recast like all of the adults. So Danny, Max, Allison, all the current people. Just assume they can do it.
So I recast Danny as Thora Birch as Danny, Allison as whatever her name is. I wrote it down as not to be disrespectful and I forgot it. Vanessa Shaw, because those two are both still like working actresses. Max I don't have as much about, but I really like I recast Max as Colin Hanks,
Okay.
Okay.
because I think Colin Hanks has a similar vibe to Max, where he's like
Nice.
kind of
Yeah.
cool, but he's also like definitely a corny weirdo. Um, and I
Can I
think
throw a? Sorry, I cut you off
no,
there.
go on.
Can I throw a fantasy cast for Max? I saw on Wikipedia that Leonardo DiCaprio was approached to play that part, but he turned it down so he could do What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Wow.
So what if somehow, by the grace of God, they got him into it?
See, here's the problem with that. I don't think Max could be Leonardo DiCaprio
No,
attractive
yeah,
because
no way.
he's obviously like a failure and a joke. Uh, so like Leonardo DiCaprio in that role, you'd be like, you should have made it, buddy.
Well,
Um,
we need a performer to perform the rap. So what if we get Mark Wahlberg? You know,
Whoa.
I feel like this is
Mark.
more of a Donnie role.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's kind of
Uh,
Colin Hanks vibes there, actually.
so I'm very interested to see who you guys cast as the Sanderson sisters.
In my version, everyone is reprising their role
Okay.
throughout all of the other licensed characters and everything, because it's a big cameo fest appealing to people's nostalgia. So I didn't really come up with any fantasy casting. Maybe like a celebrity voice for the familiar character, or in my case, it'd be Scooby Doo or Scrappy Doo. But other than that, I really do like the idea of these people reprising their roles.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to have cameos of the old cast members before they turn young. In my like, if we're still doing that with them turning into younger witches through the children's soul vapes. Um, and we have so I casted some younger versions so they wouldn't have to be played by the same older cast members because you want some slapstick comedy in there and they're getting up there in age. So I have it's kind of I don't know I felt like it was too obvious, but Melissa McCarthy as Fat Witch.
Yeah,
I also had
yeah.
Melissa McCarthy.
Do it.
I had so for Mary Sanderson, the one you're referring to, I had Melissa McCarthy, Adie Bryant, or Rebel Wilson.
Oh yeah, okay. Rebel Wilson, I could see for sure.
Do you know the comedian Fortune Feimster?
Yes, I also could have. I didn't think she had the name recognition to put down, but I also had her on my short list. She just didn't make it to my. I already had three.
Oh,
She's really funny, and I would actually like more than Melissa McCarthy. I just came up with it now. I was like, I love her. Yeah, she doesn't have the
Um,
name.
so who are you thinking for Sarah Sanderson? That was the Sarah Jessica Parker. Uh,
Witch,
huh?
witch, like the sexy
Yes.
witch. I had Margot Robbie.
nice.
I shit you not. I did too.
Wow, you guys.
I had Margot Robbie or Anna Faris. Because I
Nice.
feel like Anna Faris can play the kind of like ditzy. But I think Margot Robbie would be I think she would steal the movie, honestly. Because she's a really underrated comedy actress.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing her in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like I don't know the way she played. What's her name? I don't know why I can't think of her name right
Uh,
now.
Tate.
Shannon.
Sharon Tate.
Yeah.
Not Shannon. Yeah. So I don't know. Like she played like kind of like it was slightly ditzy in that role. If she played it up, I think.
What
She,
about like her as Harley Quinn? I feel like is right on the money.
Mhm.
That type of performance, just toned down, the inappropriate elements.
yeah. Well, Winifred, who I actually I knew her real name because it was actually used a bit. She was the hardest to come up with.
I think she was the easiest to come up with.
Who you got?
Who did you put, Nick? I want to see if we can go perfect 3 for 3.
I chose Mary Weissman from she plays Tilly in the new Star Trek series. If you guys are familiar with that, she's like a little bit on the slightly bigger side, but she's like I don't know. She just gives me Winifred vibes. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the new Star Trek series. I don't like
I
it that much. It's
I had Kristen Wiig.
Kristen
Nice.
Wiig. Oh,
I could
Uh,
yeah.
totally see that.
Kristen Wiig or Kate McKinnon.
I was
I
gonna
think
pick
I think
actually.
Kristen Wiig would be a better fit, but I also think Kate McKinnon could do it.
Yeah, I like those better. Mary Weiss, but she doesn't really have the way I don't know her normal demeanor. I wouldn't character cast her as that. Like I don't know, she just looks the part. I think.
Can I come in with one? I didn't plan any recasting, but the idea of a younger Winifred, I think Ilana Glazer from Broad City
Russ.
could pull off something
Yeah,
like that. She's definitely I could see her
I
as
like
a
that
witch.
too.
She doesn't necessarily look the part, but similar vibes. But Kate McKinnon, even Mary Wiseman, I pulled her up on Google. There's a resemblance I think between her and Kate McKinnon a little bit.
Yeah, but as far as like, because that Mary Wiseman would bring like a more serious tone,
I
and
see.
I think the reason why I didn't pick someone like Kate McKinnon was that like I don't know, it would have been too much of like a I don't know. There were too many jokes, and I feel like the comic relief was with the other two sisters. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think either would work. I don't think my choice would ever actually be casted. I like going with Kristen Wiig, honestly.
And then so I'm assuming nobody cast kids. I guess you did, Nick, but I think you did. You say you had the genders reversed?
Yeah, I was like, the older girl, I was gonna have Uma Thurman's daughter, but then like I was just
Nice.
like, oh, that's my Stranger Things
Yeah.
kid. We're the only famous actors I know are from Stranger Things, and honestly, I just gave up. And I was like, it's probably realistically, it's just gonna be some random kid that no one's ever heard of.
It's
Like,
gonna be whatever kid's
Yeah.
hot right now.
Mhm.
So I tried to cast children, and so I came
when
up
you
with
when you
the
Googled hot, you didn't really get what you were searching for.
what?
When you Googled hot kids right now, you didn't really
No,
get that.
I searched this at work, so I made sure to like really make it clear that I was not doing anything creepy. I think I was searching like current child actors. Um,
It's really hard searching up kid actors. But
yeah.
anyway, continue.
So I had for the older daughter part. If you've ever seen the movie Eighth Grade, Elsie
Yeah.
Fisher, as being because I kind of buy her as like this brooding like teenager who's like kind of over the whole situation, like mad at her mom. I also from the movie Booksmart, um, Caitlin Deaver. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Um, if you've ever seen the movie Booksmart, it's not the bigger one; it's the skinnier one. Um, I think both of those like kind of give that like daughter energy that could also play like um, over their little brother, mad at their mom. I just kind of see them in that part. And then for the younger son, I cast Jacob Tremblay, who
Nice.
is in the movie Wonder and Good Boys, and he's a very recognizable kid. He's kind of the reason that I originally had the role set for an 8-year-old and I bumped it up to 12 because I don't think he could play an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I definitely avoided picking kids just because I
I
noticed
think
like
it's really hard. Like
people
we
were
talked about it already. Like we default to Stranger Things because that's like the most popular uh, show that features a lot of child actors, And my problem is that all those kids are like teenagers now, so it's even like you can't cast them as actual children.
Yeah, no, it's too late.
Um,
And then
yeah.
and then you're like, oh, like I never, see a 10-year-old and be like, well, that was a great performance. Like that really, they do really just. I mean, sometimes they do better than
Mhm.
just like a garbage child actor, but it's just kind of hard. Like they barely have any history of like acting, so like you're almost guaranteed not to remember them from any movie because you only saw them in one thing, most likely. So it's hard.
Did you guys ever see the movie mid '90s or The Killing of a Sacred Deer?
No, not
No,
I
there's a
haven't
kid
seen
in
it.
that. He's kind of the same vibe as. Well, no, he's got like he's kind of like a young. He's like a skater kid vibe, but very very young. And I don't know how old he is. It's possible he just looks really young, but I think he kind of hits that same vibe. But maybe not 12, maybe a little bit older. I really do. Jacob Tremblay. He's like I feel like that's like the biggest kid actor right now.
yeah,
But you're right that it's hard. A movie like this realistically is probably going to end up going with complete unknowns for the kids.
yeah.
Uh,
Go ahead.
so I'm moving on to the title of this movie at this point.
Uh,
And I know, Nick, you've made it known what you think it should be.
Yeah, not Hocus Suckus, but Hocus Smocus.
I don't think it's
Hocus
Hocus.
Smoke.
I did not write Hocus Suckus anywhere.
Hocus Smoke Us. Like,
What?
That
no, man. Like,
means
There's
suck
your
us
Cheech and
adjacent.
Chong crossover right there. Hocus Smoke Us.
yeah, there we go. All right. Cheech and Chong are definitely going to be in this movie.
So my title that I wrote down wasn't original, but I just had Hocus Pocus Double Double Toil and Trouble edition, because it's two. Um, so like I said, I couldn't come up with anything. I tried to do something, a play on the word pocus, but did not come up with Smocus, obviously.
What about if we replace it with the bus driver's phrase, the way
So
he
it's Hocus Pocus, Dubbo, Dubbo, I'm in trouble. And then, like,
was Babo Babo, I'm in trouble.
Bubble Bubble. It's double. Yeah, you're right. It is Bubble Bubble, not Double Double Toil and Trouble is, I believe, a Shakespeare thing. Bubble Bubble Toil and Trouble. Maybe not. Maybe Bubble
Is it
Bubble
from
is the
Macbeth?
Shakespeare thing, and Double Double is the Olsen twins.
I don't know
Maybe
what he
I'm
said.
Whichever one is the classier one. I think maybe the Shakespeare. Well, no, because the double makes it the sequel. I don't know. I think that's a good title. That sounds like something that they would actually choose. Double Double Toil and Trouble. Is the double title of that Mary Kate and Ashley movie a reference to them being twins? Is that what...
So Double Double Toil and Trouble, Fire Burn, and Cauldron Bubble is from Macbeth.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
Shakespeare. I'm pretty sure it's Macbeth. Bubble Bubble Toil and Trouble is, as far as I can tell, not a thing.
What
It
about
is.
It's just something that guy
It is
said.
a misunderstanding. It is that guy misquoting Shakespeare.
I thought he said Bobo, like Bob, like a dude named Bob, but Babo.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any fucking sense. That's why I
It's
laughed.
really funny though.
But like, I thought he said it because he opened his door and there were three witches, who apparently he was attracted to all three. So I took it as a witch reference. I don't know what Babo
He's
is.
saying his name. Yeah, he's just getting he's getting real weird with it, referring to himself in the third person. He's in trouble. He's making that's his move.
So Babo, I'm in trouble. is
right.
him saying like,
I'm looking up.
John, I'm in trouble.
I'm looking up the text from IMDb, and it does say "bubble bubble, I'm in trouble." I just thought he was some hey, you know what I'm talking about kind of guy.
It is. So that was something that I just when you were talking about that bus driver, I like noticed, but it did. This movie takes place in Massachusetts, and the bus driver is the only one who has like a super thick accent. Everybody else has either no accent or even like a borderline like surfer dude California. Like we have Jay, who's supposed to be a townie from Salem, Massachusetts, who's nice cross trainers, bud. Like
That was good.
yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, a realistic title would be like Hocus Pocus 2, like something straight out of hell.
I thought you were just gonna say Hocus Pocus 2.
I mean, straight out, this is a new Meatloaf album.
Ooh, how about Hocus Pocus 2 to Hell and Back?
That's
Or
fantastic.
no. Hocus Pocus : to the number Hell and
Nice.
Back.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't really go to hell, but whatever.
No, well the Sanderson sisters.
Yeah, they're trying to go to hell and back. Okay, I like that. So Hocus Pocus 2 : hell and back.
Oh, I was saying Hocus Pocus : to Hell and Back.
Okay. Well, there will be.
It doesn't matter. Like that is unimportant.
Yeah, the play on 2 is.
I don't know if we're going to get people to bring their children to a movie that says to Hell and Back in it. I think we're beyond that at this point.
I like it. So all right, we got Hocus Pocus to Hell and Back, and then we have I guess the musical number.
Yeah.
Do we want to have that and that be our sign off?
So like I said earlier, when I came up in my story of Max being a rap singer, I thought I'd be doing a disservice if I'd not provide the song that made him famous. So I prepared it, and it is 3 verses with a repeated chorus. It's not good. Like I don't write music or anything. It rhymes, and that's about it. So I'm going to attempt to perform it. I'm going to take my headphones off so I can't hear your guys' reaction. And I'm just going to power through the entire thing.
Okay.
So
keep on beat. I'll try to.
I don't remember the beat.
Okay.
It is very much like a like a little like a bossa nova style beat. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
And remember, this is a rap by Max. This is Max's Halloween rap song that is about the Sanderson sisters and directly references the events of Hocus Pocus 1.
Okay.
All right. So here we go. Let me take you back to when I was a teen in Salem, Mass on Halloween. I lit the black flame candle, and wouldn't you know, the Sanderson sisters decided to show. They chased me and my sister all over town, even raised up zombies from the ground. They would have gotten us if not for the cat, Thackeray Binks. They never thought of that. All you children better run and hide because the Sanderson sisters are out to ride. If you don't believe me, just wait to be seen. They'll suck out your soul on Halloween. That's the chorus. So here comes verse 2. Old Binks told us all about their magic book, and so we opened it up to take a look. But the book shot a beam right into the sky. The sisters found us. We thought we would die. Luckily, we tricked those old hags and got away without time to brag. We formed a circle and relied on trust and fought off the witches till they turned to dust.
Woo!
And then I repeat the chorus. All of you children better run and hide because the Sanderson sisters are out to ride. If you don't believe me, just wait to be seen. They'll suck out your souls on Halloween.
Wow.
Hold on. I got one more.
Oh.
Now, let me warn you about these gals. Don't go near them. They aren't your pals. There's Sarah, the ditzy one. She may be cute, but she's sure no fun. And Mary, the bloodhound of the group. She'll grind your bones for the witch's brew soup. And finally, last is Winifred. She'll keep coming till you're good and dead. And then we repeat the final chorus. All you children better run and hide because the Sanderson sisters are out to ride. If you don't believe me, just wait to be seen. They'll suck out your soul on Halloween.
Yeah.
So nice, I feel like it's got that like corny energy of like people would play it ironically.
Yeah.
It's not good, but also we don't want the character Max to be cool. So I think it plays.
Now that I've heard that, one, I genuinely like the chorus and the bossa nova idea. That totally plays in that one hit wonder kind of washed up vibe to Max. But I love the idea of Jay and Ice being enamored with
By
that song.
They hear that song and they're like, "Oh, cool," because they really don't know rap music. It was all just an act.
Oh man, that was good. Thank you for sharing that with us.
I had to take my headphones off and not look at your audio to see your reactions.
I was digging it.
All right, so I guess we're done. Please make this movie.
Please make this movie.
Please make this movie.
Bye.
Happy Halloween.